Our guest today is a very talented musician from Seattle. His group won the sound-off competition at EMP and earned the right to perform at Bumbershoot. He's the frontman of the group Cosmos. I'm excited to introduce Campana.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming up. I hope those sponsors didn't throw you off too much.
Nah, it was unexpected, but, kind of not surprised considering this is a comedy-esque podcast, so
Yeah,
it's appropriate.
definitely. How you been doing?
I've been good. Been holding up pretty well during this whole quarantine situation. A lot of things are kind of still within routine for me because I'm an essential worker, so I'm still working. But hours got cut here and there, but it still feels like I have weekends, so that's good.
Does it feel like it's kind of all blending together a little bit though?
Yeah, but probably a little less to me than other people. But I have kept saying this whole month, March this date, March that date, and everyone's been like, it's fucking May. And I'm like, oh shit, it is May.
It's crazy.
The last date I remember shit being normal was around May 5th or March 15th or so, before everything started spiraling and snowballing from the whole COVID-19 and pandemic situation. So I feel like that's why I keep saying March. And, with May being another M month, that doesn't help. But yeah.
Does it feel like once the summer, once we get to the point where we can go outside, summer's going to be over with? It's crazy. Especially up in the Pacific Northwest where you wait all year long to get out.
Yeah, to get to the summer. So it's these sunny days have been such a fucking tease because it's been probably the sunniest April and May that we've had as a city, yet we're not out there to fully enjoy to the capacity that we want to. So
yeah, what are your I'm curious because you work 9 to 5, but you do music too.
Yeah,
and what are your splits how? What's your
as far as how I set my schedule or my days and the flexibility behind it.
Shelton Harris came on and he was talking about he just had the craziest schedule for a while where he was working, I think it was 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah,
till,
at Safeway.
noon,
Yeah, that's the homie. Yeah, he was working at Safeway for 10 years or some shit.
Yeah,
since I've known him, he's worked at Safeway, and I think that just stopped recently, a year or two ago. So
yeah, it's interesting how where do you guys all where's the meeting place for people in Seattle hip hop? Because it seems like everybody knows everybody.
One, being Seattle is just small as hell, and two, a lot of people originate from different pockets outside of this main Seattle city, to where it's when they eventually start migrating towards Seattle, a lot of people are already aware of who specific groupings of people are. So different events coming up, different shows, putting all of these groups of people into one place. It's pretty easy to, get familiar with everyone in the scene. So with that being said, me, Shelton Harris, Tyler Dops, Jaga, my homie Plugga, we all, do different things within the Seattle music scene, but we all came from Kitsap County area. And so coming out to Seattle, all doing our own things individually, it's that's kind of what other groupings of people from other areas have done as well. So it's over the years you start to get familiarized with everyone in the city.
Where are the typical venues that you guys are playing at?
I would say good ones would be Nectar Lounge, the Crocodile, Numos, the Neptune. A lot of those venues have provided a landscape for artists to, get their starts, whether it be, having their own shows that they headline or opening for bigger artists that come to town, things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because music and comedy are like they're very different, but they kind of have some overlapping like parallels that we were talking about before this, and like you kind of get your foot in the door with some of those venues and then build those relationships up, and then as you grow you get the opportunities through them.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous with everything that's going on, like music's got to, this has to hurt that industry hard.
Oh,
right?
Yeah, this shit is like, I don't think anyone knows what it's going to look like when this ends, even more so because no one knows when this is going to end. So it's like, it's kind of hard to like determine like how things in the current like music landscape situation of not only the local scene, but like on a global level, how it's going to be, because it's like not only are we as a community getting impacted in our venues, but it's like venues around the world, around the country are,
and it's such a like, it seems like a high overhead industry. Like, it doesn't ever seem like there's like a lot of excess cash to go around. So those venues, I have to imagine, even Showbox was like hit. Yeah. Like they were struggling before all of this.
Yeah, exactly. Aside from, fighting, for the opportunity for that to stay open as like a major landmark in the city, because they're talking about destructing it and putting up, hotels and like housing and things like that. Like situations like this, it's like, it's kind of hard to say like where the trajectory of things will go after this whole thing dies down.
It feels like a nail in the coffin for some of those like
that fringe were like hanging on. Yeah.
In it's sad because Comedy Underground in Seattle is kind of in the same boat,
right in Pioneer Square.
And I know they were struggling beforehand, but then just live venues for entertainment, it's tough. Like that's not a great business to be in financially. I'm sure it's fun to run one, but damn.
It's kind of crazy how like this is like unintentionally pushing everything to a digital landscape to where it's like a lot of people are, still finding creative ways to put on shows and like have meetings and go to work and things like that, to where I feel like a lot of people are going to be comfortable with those methods, to where it's like not being able to socialize in person like we should be able to do as like human beings. It's going to be very different like moving forward. Like,
what do you think of that? Like when, I'm sure you've been hit up to do like a digital live show, right? Like
not necessarily, but like just other digital like live streams, or like like showcasing music or doing like little interviews like that. Not necessarily for a live event, but I have seen a lot of live events like go down like on a daily basis. A lot of labels and CEOs and A&Rs from labels that are doing like virtual talent shows and looking for new talent and things like that, which I think is, very cool opportunity for a lot of artists who, have that free time, who are, sitting in their houses and creating and things like that, to be able to showcase their talent, to the world, and, potentially be able to come out of this situation not only more polished as an artist, but, with opportunities waiting at their doorstep, because, they took those methods to really like perfect their craft, like during this whole situation, which I think is really dope. But,
and that kind of brings me back to the like schedule piece of it. First off, like I've listened to a ton of your stuff, and like it's this, there's like these two buckets, right? It's you as a solo artist, and then you with your group Cosmos. Like it's such a different sound across the two of them, but both of them are so unique and really fucking cool, man. Like I mean, your solo stuff, I I can't stop listening to it. Like it's really great. And I have a few buddies that I've like sent it to, and they're like, gee, like what is it?
Like good to hear. Yeah. Good feedback. Thank you.
And like what for me, like creatively, it's writing, it's getting on stage every night, and then doing like podcasts and stuff, and just trying to get different points of view. Like, what is your process like?
With like as far as like on a branding front, or like creating the product front?
Creating.
So on the creation front, I feel like it usually starts with either me getting a beat from a producer or working on a beat from scratch with a producer. It's been a lot of the latter, working on a beat with the producer from scratch as of lately. A couple of my main dudes, P. Cruz and Tirey, I was, living with them this past month during this whole pandemic situation, just sleeping on the couch while just relocating, looking for a new apartment. And, we've formed a really like formulaic relationship to where we're able to like get into the groove of things in like a really like good and efficient way.
Is it like you get off work and then you're just going right into it? Or
yeah, like it's been a lot like that lately. Even more so, like I've been working part-time now. I work in banking, and I also drive for Lyft and things like that. But with everything slowing down with the demand of Lyft, like I haven't been able to do that. But since the unemployment has supported now independent contractors and part-time employees, I was, eligible to receive unemployment. So I'm still working, being able to receive unemployment. So I'm in a really like good position, and I'm grateful and blessed to be in the position I'm in, because not a lot of people are able to be in this situation. But for a lot of the days that I have off, I'm either working on music, organizing content, doing like research on just like different ways to brand. And when I do work, a lot of the times I get off work and just go straight to working on music. All depending on the day,
This is super interesting to me, because like people don't understand just how much work goes into being an artist, like an independent artist like that. And like what, out of curiosity, just what's your like guilty pleasure when you're not working your job or working on music, or like what?
Definitely playing Nintendo Switch. Like I have a Nintendo Switch. Like Animal Crossing's been like the shit of this quarantine. I keep
hearing people talk about that.
I haven't played a lot in recent time, just because I've been like during the quarantine, during this lockdown, I feel like there's a lot of waves that I go through as far as like what I do. Like 1 week I could be, chilling, watching Netflix or Hulu or whatever the case may be, watching a different series, watching a different anime, or I could be, working on music. 1 week I could be playing video games the other week. But I feel like just finding ways to stay stimulated creatively throughout the time is like very important. And having your times of relaxation and recharging, because it's like everyone wants to say like go during this time, because it's like you'll never have this much time in your life. But like also you need to realize how important like relaxing and recharging is. Like that should be the primary focus of this time more than anything, I feel like.
Yeah, it's dude, it's funny that you say that, because when I started, I was like, okay, this is my time that I can work on a script that I'm trying to work on, and because I want to do like an animated project for my cartoon, and I'm reading all these books just like on how to write scripts, and like I must have read, I don't know, 12 to 15 books since this thing started, and been writing a ton and all this shit. And then I got to this point where I was just like, you know what?
Maybe
I'm watching anime, dude. Yeah. I just need to chill and watch all these old movies and hang out and relax. And like, it also, like the thing I'm scared of creatively is like, I like to keep creative momentum. Like, so I have these like 3 different projects I work on, and I'm always like as long as there's enough variability, I won't get like tired of working on that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you get strung out in one creative avenue, it's always good to have like another avenue, to fulfill that creative void when, you get burnt out in one. And like I just started like I got a new MacBook, so I started working on like just a lot of video editing for a lot of little content pieces that I intend to drop in the near future. And it's like there was one day where I worked the whole day, got off work, went by P. Cruz and Tyrey's house, like got footage of, just producing a beat, and then went back home, started editing that footage, took footage of myself, put that footage together, started writing to a song, and like by 2 a.m., I went to bed and then got up the next morning and went to work. Like,
yeah,
that was like a full ass day, but it's like I didn't feel burnt out creatively because I was juggling a bunch of different hats throughout the day. And I feel like when you're already like in the flow of working throughout the day, like it's that much easier to like continue that flow, whether it be, working at your day job or something else for that matter.
Yeah. Do you ever wonder, like, if you didn't have the day job, like, you wouldn't be as motivated to create?
Like, I've experienced that a lot, like, during this, lockdown situation, because there has been periods at a time where I've been off for, like, a week straight, and I tell myself, like, during the work week, like, oh, when I get off, I'm going to do this, and that, like, throughout my week, and then, like, the day comes, like, that's the last day before I start working again the next week. And I'm like, damn, I've only really done like half the things I wanted to. But like when those next 2 days that I'm working come, like I get the rest of that finished up, like in the amount of time that I could have done within one of my days, like off,
It's weird too, though, because there's like benefit of both. Because like when you have that full flexibility, like I feel like your brain can
it's real easy to get complacent.
It's easy to get complacent, but then you also have, like, I feel like it can take you creatively to different places that you wouldn't necessarily go if you were so regimented with like the work aspect of it. So like some ideas I feel like can blossom, like that just take longer. Like for me, the best ideas come when I'm like walking or just like kind of almost in like a flow state, like subconscious type, just thinking and not realizing it. But if I'm so busy all the time, I can't get there. I'm just like stressed out about what I got to do next.
Exactly.
But then it feels like you haven't done anything for like a week.
Yeah. And yeah, sometimes that's okay. I feel like just as humans, we're so conditioned to, want to be on go when it's like it's important for us to be able to take that time to rest and do shit like that.
Yeah, but you've been going hard, man. Like I read a couple articles about you, and like what you moved out when you were 17.
Yeah
and you got it. Like what was your path into music, and how have you been making it work?
So I moved out like right after high school. I graduated at 17. So I've been living on my own since 2012. So about 8 years now. And like I just moved from my hometown, just with, the decision that I was going to pursue music.
And you're from Bremerton?
Yeah.
Okay.
So was going to pursue music, and move out here to Seattle. I know there's a lot more opportunity out here. I was intending to go to college. And, I did all those things, came out here, started going to Seattle Central. And, it was just like, I feel like just me as a person and my personality, like I just am good at networking with people, like just naturally. So I just became homies with a lot of people who turned out to be musicians. And especially in this city, there's a lot of different pockets of people who are like just crazy fucking musicians that, don't even have like social media. Like, it's like you don't meet those people unless, go to house parties and like exactly, are out here in the mix of shit. So
what area of the city, like, is that in? Are you in Cap Hill or
Oh,
like where?
I've lived all over Seattle, like during the course of me being out here for the past 8 years. Like I've lived North Seattle and Aurora. I've lived even more north, close to the shoreline edge. I lived West Seattle for a good bit of time. Cap Hill, First Hill area. Yeah, a lot of different areas, and I had a lot of homies who lived in like the general CD area and like Ballard area and Magnolia, and like just a lot of people that I just met like during the time of first moving out here and going to shows and doing different things like that.
And when did you like start making music? Like
I started making music back in high school, so back in 10th grade, 9th grade, and I first started making music because I started initially dancing. So like throughout like junior high and high school, I did like little talent shows where we had little dance routines I choreographed alongside, just other homies at the time. And, during like the 2009, 2010 era, like when the jerkin movement came out, like I had like a crew and we were like shooting videos and dancing, doing all that shit. And it kind of like inspired me to want to like create music, more so leaning towards like tracks we could dance to and things like that. But from there it just blossomed into just having a passion for just making music as is. And from there just started and didn't stop. So
and were you some sound effects were you when did you get into writing lyrics?
I wrote lyrics before even that. So I'd say back in like even like 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, like I had like a little notebook where I was writing lyrics, not even like recording anything, just writing as
like
a whole.
What got you to that? Like that's so young to me, and
just
like,
influence from just culture, Black culture, just growing up, seeing different music videos on BET, MTV, just seeing a lot of different things, hearing a lot of different things on the radio.
Who were some of your main influences?
Like honestly, I grew up like I was born here in Washington in Bremerton. I was in a military family, so I was born, Navy. There's the big base there. And so aside from that, we relocated to Hawaii when I was in like kindergarten. Went
so you had poo-poo platter.
Yes. And I don't think I've ever remembered it being to referred as that. Obviously, I've heard about it, after the fact. But it was like kindergarten through 4th grade that I lived in Hawaii. So I probably didn't even realize, the name of that. But yes, definitely have had it. But I was out there kindergarten to 4th grade and then moved back here. I lost my train of thought. What was the question?
No, sorry.
No, you're good.
That. Who were your influences?
So living in Hawaii, I wasn't really exposed to a lot of like, underground rap, so to speak. Like a lot of like, I'd say lyricists like, I don't know, like Jay-Z, Nas, like Tupac. Like honestly, when I moved here, like in 6th grade, I had a white classmate who told me who Tupac was. I had no clue who Tupac was. Yeah. Like I grew up listening to the radio, like Snoop Dogg, Ludacris, Chingy, Nelly, like all of those people who like occupied the mainstream radio space in like the early 2000s, like Pharrell, like Clips, like all of those types of artists were artists that I grew up listening to until like junior high when I was out here. But even more so, like a lot of like the Atlanta dance music scene with like, I don't know, like Dim Franchise Boys,
Jermaine Dupri.
Yeah, Jermaine Dupri, Bow Wow, like all that whole era, like in the early 2000s. That's a lot of the shit that like I grew up on.
Out of curiosity, like when you moved, you said kindergarten through 4th grade in Hawaii. Like those are kind of weird ages to be moving around.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a family, like, we moved every 3 years, and like it was like by the time I was like 10 or 12, I had lived in 10 different states. And like, did that have an influence on you, like growing up, like having to adapt to different environments? And like,
probably not anything that I've really like realized as far as how it had an effect on, you know, me growing, but you know, I wouldn't doubt that it had played a role, but not anything that like I would feel like that was on like a conscious level that I could, you know, tell you about.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I bring it up is you mentioned when you went to Seattle Central, you kind of came in and like got involved with these different people and just fit in to these different pockets. And like, there are a lot of people that's not normal for.
Yeah.
Like, there's some people that grow up with their group of friends and they stay with them, and like, they just are not interested in meeting new people.
Yeah, and I feel like that's a lot of people who stay within the confines of their hometown as well. Like, I mean, also, like, just growing up in Kitsap, like, I lived in Bremerton, but went to school in Port Orchard at South Kitsap for high school, and throughout all of grade school, for that matter. So, like, in Bremerton, like, it was predominantly black. Like, I grew up around hella black people in Bremerton, but, like, when I was going to school, like, the percentage of black people there was, like, bare none. So, I'd go to school with a bunch of white kids, a bunch of, you know, Asian Pacific Islander kids, yet go back home and I'd kick it, you know, during, you know, the evening and on the weekends with all, you know, my niggas in Bremerton. So it was weird. I mean, not weird, but I mean, it was cool that I've like had all these different experiences with all different types of, you know, people during my formative years. Because it's like when I came out to Seattle, there was like in the pockets that I started, you know, meeting people, is nothing but like white kids from like Seattle Prep and like, you know, Ballard and, you know, just Magnolia area. And it's like, I didn't like choose to meet those people. It's just kind of the area of Seattle I was in at the time. And, you know, just moving around to different areas of Seattle, you know, met different types of people, like, you know, who were either from that area or moved to that area. And, you know, as the years went by of me living in Seattle, a lot of people just coming from out of town. So
yeah, Seattle's kind of a weird melting pot, like, because in the actual like center, when I was at Seattle U, it's a lot of white people. Like, it was a lot of white people, but I also met, it's very diverse in that too. And I mean, how I met Henry, the guy that hooked me up with you, like, it was at Seattle U, but we had a really cool group of guys that it was really diverse. And the one thing I really like about Seattle is it really supports the arts. Like, there's all these venues and stuff that have that. And then it also supports like a lot of different ideology and thinking. Like, sometimes it feels like you can't voice that counter argument to like what the public thought is, but it's more open-minded than anywhere else I've lived. Like, is Bremerton kind of different?
Closed-minded as fuck. Yeah. Well, I mean, Kitsap as a whole, I would say, like, and I feel like, you know, it kind of has that same format. I feel like for any small town, it's like a syndrome, because I hear people from, you know, that come here from all across the world from small towns just like Bremerton, you know, say the exact same things. So it's like there's parallels for sure.
Yeah, it was weird because I went to school in Indiana like for 4 years before I went to Vegas and then moved up here, and that was such a different like where I was in Indiana, it was so white, dude. It was crazy. Like, we were like 10 miles away from where the KKK was founded.
Dang.
And I wasn't used to that from high school. And then I went to Vegas, and Vegas is like, if you live in Vegas, it's such a different experience. Like, it's a cool place to live. There's tons of stuff to do. But then I came up here, and I don't think it could be any more different. Like, it was just a weird combination. But I had a couple other questions for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess, what are your, like, my friend Chase Moore, I was talking to him yesterday, and he does like all the art for the podcast, and he just signed like a distribution deal for his music, and I guess that's like one component of a record deal.
Yeah.
Like, what's your idea of success? Like, what are you shooting for? Like, are you just trying to put out as much of your art as possible, or what?
I'd say success to me, I mean, it comes in, I feel like there's many levels to say like I'm successful. I would say I am successful now, but also at the same time not successful. Like TJ Campana 5 years ago would see my position right now is like successful, but I feel like, you know, it's something that's kind of hard to measure for like what like specific spot I'd be like, oh, I'm successful, and then there's nothing left to attain. But you know, like some things that come to mind, you know, like just being able to provide and look out for my family, you know, be able to completely support myself off of music, which I'd say would go hand in hand with provide for my family. You know, be able to create stress in a stress-free environment, be able to travel like on my own accord, and you know, be able to see the world and play my music in different places of the world, and you know, just be able to inspire people, and you know, help one person, you know, maybe change their perspective on, you know, how they look at things.
And what's your favorite part of of this process? Like, is it the live performance? Is it making something new? Like,
making something new. I mean, I feel like it's definitely making something new, because it's like every time you do that, you're like filling a void of something that you're trying to like reach towards. And like, I don't know, the feeling you get like of creating something new that you really fuck with is like very indescribable, because it's like it's something that it's like you're addicted to. Like you can keep playing, you can keep focusing and obsessing over it like for that moment, and then you know, when you're done doing that, you're like, all right, it's time to move on to the next thrill in the form of, you know, creating more music, to be able to, you know, kind of chase and fill that void all over again.
how do you balance like the drive for something new while keeping it at like a quality that you are like? Did you ever find yourself in the pattern of like, you just want to do new stuff, and then it suffers in terms of what
yeah,
you're putting out?
I would say yes and no. I wouldn't say necessarily suffers, because it's like you always have the end say of what comes out. So I feel like out of creating like 80% of the shit I make, I mean, isn't the dopest shit, but like all people hear is the 20% of the shit that I make, which I feel like is the dopest shit. So it's like you can't like pigeonhole yourself into like only creating like at a specific pace because you want to really perfect something, because it's like quality over quantity, but it's like you need quantity to be able to, you know, sift through to get the best quality.
Yeah.
So it's like, yes, quality over quantity, but you know,
it's funny because like it's almost like a baseball player mentality. Like nobody bats 1,000. Like you got to go to the plate and swing, but like if you're hitting 300, that's amazing. Like it's incredible, and nobody talks about that for the most part in the creative field. Like that, so much of what you do is going to be terrible, and like getting you to that next level. But
yeah,
I mean,
and you are your own worst critic at the end of the day. So I mean, my 80% of me thinking my shit it sucks could be like 20% to someone else. Like, you know, it's all subjective. Someone could be like, oh no, this doesn't suck. It's like, but like, you know how you want your, you know, music, your craft, your creations, you know how you want it to be interpreted. So
how, like, do you look back at your older stuff and just cringe sometimes?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
Because that happens for me too, and it's like, then it starts fucking with me because I'm like, well, what I'm making right now is gonna be terrible if I like you.
Yeah, no, yes and no, but like I feel like you start to get to a flow and a threshold. Like when you can get to a threshold, because like I've been working on this past album I'm working on for like the past 2 years. It's like, and I listened to shit that I released 2 years ago, or I listened to shit that I released like 4 years ago, makes me cringe. But like listening to the shit I've released 2 years ago, I'm like, all right, this still sits pretty nice with, you know, what I'm doing. And so like the stuff that I released 2 years ago, obviously I didn't create all of that 2 years ago. It was like created, you know, a year or maybe a couple years before it came out, you know. So long story short, with, you know, the stuff that I've been working on for my album, it's been for a couple years. So like there's times where I like don't listen to it, come back to it 2 weeks later, a month later, 2 months later. And if it can, you know, still sit right with me, then I'll know, you know, it will withstand the test of time. And it's like a lot of that comes with, you know, being honest with yourself and having like honest people around you to really let you know like how the shit sits with them, you know, like months later, and like, you know, updating things, updating different sounds and things like that. If you feel like something is getting a little outdated, whether it be with, you know, the production, you know, the way you approached it with, you know, the flow of it, like the lyrics, like I'm speaking straight from like a making a song perspective, but you know, it could have that same, you know, type of process with anything.
Yeah, it's kind of that steel sharpens steel mentality. Like you gotta have those people that you can ask them, like, is this good? Like,
Yeah.
and there's so many people that are gonna just tell you, yeah, it's great because they want to be supportive or whatever. But you need that person that's like, hey, this isn't great. But for me, music is, to me, I'm talking about anything creative. Like, you know when something is strong. Like you can hear it. Like but it's so hard to be able to like put your finger on why it is strong. And I do like that because it almost comes down to like, does the person have strong taste? Do they like?
That's hella funny how you mentioned that, because I was literally just talking about this yesterday, because Gunna, he just dropped a new album, and it's like very like addicting, like music. Like the music is quality, everything from like the flow of it, the production, and it's like, all right, it's like, yes, like we know how Gunna sounds and he sounds the same, but why is this album so much more infectious than I feel like his previous works, at least to me, and you know, a lot of other people that I've talked to about it. And then I saw that he released like a documentary on behalf of the album, and like seeing like a glimpse into like the creative process behind the album with like just all of his producers, like his in-house team, like them like traveling to Jamaica, it looks like for maybe a couple months or something, and just locking in and working on the full album. It's like the way to see like how like dedicated and how devoted they were to like just making the best shit possible and not forcing it, and like keeping it fun. Like, oh, I was like, oh, that makes sense, like why this is, you know, so infectious, because it's like this is directly the amount of energy and passion that they put behind the music. It's like obviously the music won't sit with everyone the same way, but like those who it does sit with, you know, that provides like a better picture of like why it does.
Yeah, it's such a hard thing to articulate, but I think you nailed, like, when somebody's putting in that effort, like you can feel
it subconsciously. Like it's like not anything you'll be able to place your finger on, but there's something there that makes this stick with you.
Yeah, and I was curious because I was watching some of your music videos. Like, do you make those yourself, or
I direct? Like, I have a hand in like everything I do creatively, like whether it is with writing the treatment or helping co-direct the video. So for every video that you see of mine, yes, like I've had a hand in creating the video.
And are you like, I mean, if you don't want to answer, that's fine. Are you like self-financing all that type of stuff?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, as independent artists, like especially having a day job, it's like aside from bills, like the other half of my money like goes towards like the things that it costs to expense, this passion. So it's like I'm very fortunate and grateful to have, like a team of, friends and individuals that I work with who, help out when they can, chip in towards, the expenses towards getting some of these things done. Mm-hmm. But, for the most part, it's like my own bread, like covering a lot of the shit.
Yeah. And that's super cool to me because I'm kind of in the same boat, but it doesn't feel like you're throwing money at something. Like it feels like you're investing in.
Yeah. And a lot of the people I work with are homies as well. So it's like we have a mutual understanding that, yes, we are homies. We're in this together, but they're also providing their time for a service to be, executed. So it's like I want to make sure that, they're covered during those, expenses and things like that. Whether it be, giving them a percentage of the product that they have a hand in, if it's something that's going to be money made off of, or just paying them up front.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that people don't talk about a ton either, is people in these communities, like they're sharing and like working together is a very common, like it's almost expected, like it's people aren't like as greedy as like in a corporate type environment, or like it's a fun thing to do. But I'm amazed just by looking at a lot of like the hip hop scene in Seattle and the amount of like independent work that you guys do. And it's like, is it in the back of your mind, like I'm doing all this to get to a certain destination, or is it like,
without a doubt, I'm trying to be rich off this shit. Like, I'm trying to, be wealthy, be able to do what I want to do, like on my own dime, on my own time,
Yeah.
That's the end goal. Like, and, just keep going, keep pushing creatively, finding new ways, to inspire people, to inspire myself, just keep shit going.
And while you're doing all the like solo stuff, you're also in Cosmo. Like how does that split work? Like,
so with like the band and shit, like as of late, like we usually gig a lot together. That's like a lot of the main shit that we do together. And, with the current climate of shit, we haven't had the time to do that. But it's more so predominantly like I've been working on a lot of solo stuff to like really like refine a sound that, can also translate live and, have those live elements. But, that's what I can say about that. But as far as like when we gig and do things like that, they're all producers. So it's like we all work on different ideas. And
your drummer is fire, by the way. He is really fucking good.
Thanks.
Like I played drums growing up, and I was just like, damn, this kid can play. Like,
we've had like, and like the thing about Cosmos is, I potentially don't know which drummer you're talking about, because we all circulate on different instruments. So it's like, depending on the gigs, or performance, like one of us could be playing drums versus like the last performance playing synth.
So do you play like everything then, or?
I don't, but like my bandmates as a whole, they can play like pretty much whatever instrument like
How'd you meet those guys?
Just networking, like going to shows, events, just hella naturally like that. Yeah.
And where do you Seattle's such a small place, and then I have to imagine getting places to practice and stuff like that's kind of a pain in the ass, really.
It hasn't been for me. I mean, one of my bandmates just had a basement spot that he already had set up. So that's not for as long as I've been in a band, that hasn't been a predicament for me, which is cool to say.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah,
that's crazy. So when you're give me a day in your life just out of when COVID's not going on. What are your hours typically like? Are you?
Yeah, I'm usually a lot of the days are pretty normal, I would say, in which I'm working a lot, but I don't, well, I mean, I'm speaking prior to all of this, but now I'm getting in the flow of more of it, but I didn't record myself. I scheduled studio time, which wasn't every day because it would depend on, the schedule of the engineer. So, I mean, there'd be days where I'm just working, either driving Lyft all day or working all day. So there's a lot of just normal ass days. But, I still find ways to, think creatively throughout the day, towards planning, towards, different projects or, lyrics, writing, ideas that I have that I'm, constantly thinking about. And I feel like the thought process is the most important part of everything. Everything starts from a thought. So it's as long as you're constantly thinking about something, that's productive. Productive thinking is very undervalued because it's you don't have to be putting things into action every given second. You could be obsessing over what you want to put into action. So when you actually go to do it, you have a clear-cut idea of how you want to, tackle it.
Where did you get that? That thinking about thinking from?
I feel like I read a lot just on, self-empowerment, spirituality.
Because I took do you know Stephen Covey?
No.
He wrote that 7 Habits of a highly effective person book.
I know of the book. Yeah.
I went my work was oh, we'll send you to Vegas and take this conference. I was I will go to Vegas.
Oh, damn. Whatever. So you did it?
Yeah. And
that's sick.
It was I think a lot of those conference things, I don't know what happens, but you end up leaving and everybody loves everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know
one of those, one of those empowering leadership self-building type. Yeah.
I feel no matter what you would do, if you put people in a room together for 7 days, eventually you leave on happy terms unless there was
some
violence.
Static.
But there's a whole section in that about how there are 4 quadrants of how you live your life, and the first one is strategic planning about things you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you should be spending 80 to 90% of your time thinking about what you're going to be doing versus being in action and then reacting.
Yeah, that's crazy
things.
Because I haven't read that book, but it's funny because I feel I'm just born a real nigga at the same time, because there's a lot of books that I have read about spirituality and self-empowerment, to where I would be reading and it's oh, I already think like this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's cool to have that reaffirmation from a prestigious writer, someone who's very successful on speaking on these types of things. And it's oh, I already have that mindset. So it kind of lets me know that I have a successful way of thinking. Yeah. So it's I'm not really pressed on how much time it's taking for shit to happen, as long as I'm being productive in, various different aspects of my life.
Yeah, it's interesting when you blend creativity and then that work ethic together, because there are so many people that don't have those two to there are a lot of creative people and they have a lot of ideas about things they're going to do, but they never get around to doing them.
Yeah.
But if you're the type of person that keeps that momentum going and like keeps working at it, like 80% of what you have is going to be shit. But like, first off, you know what 80% that's going to be, which is
for sure
a hard part of the process. And then the 20% is going to be something that like you can stand behind. But it's like what you're talking about is like having that born with that way of thinking. I don't know if that's like the norm necessarily.
Yeah. And I mean, not like I could be playing a little bit. I'm not saying I was necessarily born this way, but I have a great mother, who's instilled these principles into me. At the same time, I grew up reading a lot of like business oriented books, like The Magic of Thinking Big, like books like that kind of like put you on that train of thought. And she would also like give me like an allowance for like reading specific books like that she had. And at the same time, like give me like not like necessarily quiz me, but kind of like start dialogue with me about specific things that I've read within it. So it's like I feel like from that I've kind of taken it into my own hands to do my own independent studies and reads and things like that on just a lot of various different things that intrigue me.
Yeah, that can't be super common in
I don't
Bremerton,
think it
right?
is.
Like
No, not at all.
like,
And definitely not in Bremerton.
Yeah, and it.
But I mean, there's some diamonds that come out of Bremerton. Don't get me wrong, but like, like the majority of people, aren't trained or raised to think in that light, and not, I mean, that's not everyone's, path. I mean, so to say, not like I had a homie who tweeted the other day is like, not everyone is meant to be successful. And like as harsh as that might sound, it's like there's a universal balance to things. And it's like if everyone had that drive to be successful, it's like it wouldn't make sense. Like I feel like there's a yin and yang to every type of situation. If everyone was driven to be successful and like a business owner and the top of everything, there would be no fucking employees to make this shit work. So it's like
it's lions and house cats.
Yeah.
Like some people are wired to be on that hunt to like go and achieve something, and then other people are happy like.
And there's nothing wrong with happy being an employee. Like if you had if you had a 9 to 5, like you had your time off, you got vacations, you were getting shit paid, like that doesn't sound pretty bad to me. Like,
do you want to be comfortable though? Like that's
exactly.
And that's
a lot of people do, and it's like there's nothing wrong with that, but it's like there's other people who know that growth comes from uncomfortability.
I mean, you said something that I think is kind of interesting. Is like you want to get rich off your stuff. I don't know if you want to get rich.
Yeah, I think
you want to chase what this thing is, but I don't know. Like I think I'm on a similar path where I'm like, it's the hunt, like the grind is the fun of it.
Exactly. And like I want something to show for like, yeah, I did this shit, and like like especially being a black man in America, like getting that million is 100 times harder than a white man in America getting that million. So like not only is it a status thing, but it is like it does show like a level of success that we're all playing in this fucking game of life. But that's not what I feel like will make or break everything. Like I like we were talking about successful earlier. Like I honestly feel pretty fucking successful. Like this is the first year since I've been on my own that I'm debt free, like have money saved up, like while still being able to expense shit for my music and getting paid for my music. And it's like that shit, like 5 years ago I would have not even fathomed. Like it's like, but it's like I cleared my debt and I'm like, damn, now what? It's like, all right, keep doing the shit that I've been working towards, because it's like it's not over. And it's like you can always strive to get to that next step.
It's weird to be able to appreciate where you're at now, but still want to be able to like get to that next level. And that, I don't think that comes with anything, because I just turned 31, and like I felt like all throughout my 20s I was like, I want to get to where I'm at, and like I'm definitely not where I want to be creatively as an artist, like all this shit, but I'm having a ton of fun, man. Like,
exactly. And that's the most important part of all of it. It's like, yes, I want to get rich, but if I'm not having fun in the path to getting rich, then it's not going to be as sweet,
and
when
bringing
I get
people with you too. Like,
exactly.
Doing it the right way with the right people.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be like my friend Chase, who was like, it's all about the slow cook, like because it tastes the best. Like you want to
let that shit marinate for sure.
And it like, people that get success really, really quickly, it doesn't typically work out very well for them in the long run. Like Lindsay Lohan, she's fucking crazy. Like, it's just all those people.
Yeah, and that's a different story too with like childhood Hollywood stars, because it's like they go through tons of shit. But like, like I'd say even like a more like linear thing would be like, someone who makes one hit just specifically to make that hit and like get famous and get rich. And then, like internally, I know that doesn't feel the best. Like once they're not able to sustain that, like you were at the top of the world, you had a moment, and it's like, if you're not doing anything else to leverage, ways to like keep that moment alive, then it's like, it's not going to feel as good, because it's going to be gone just like that, just as quick as it came.
Once you get 1 million, you're going to want 10.
Exactly.
And it like, if you're not doing it the right way, you're not going to get there and be happy. You're going to get to the top of that mountain and be pissed off because there's either a new mountain you have to climb, or you're looking around and you're pissed off that you don't have anything to climb anymore. Like,
yeah, exactly. And like the main thing for wanting to get rich too, it's like I definitely am going to redistribute my wealth, because it's like I'm at a spot right now where it's like, damn, like I feel good right now where I'm at financially. So I could only imagine how much more generous I would be if I was just sitting on money. Like, I don't need it. I know like how much money I need to live comfortably. Yeah. Like, and I've experienced that, I feel like.
Would you want to like leave this area and maybe go to like a larger market, do you think?
Or? Oh yeah, most definitely. Like the goal is to pick up and move this whole operation down to LA with a lot of my team. Mm-hmm. We intended to like this spring, but this whole pandemic shit went down.
Why is LA like always, is it just industry?
I don't know. It's always, definitely industry, market, all of that shit. But like, I also just on the networking front, have ventured to LA here and back, have made my own connections down there to where it's like,
is New York not really?
New York definitely is, but I feel like on the East Coast front, like there's not really a lot of West Coast people I know personally that are very like tapped into like a East Coast New York market. A lot more so in a Seattle or in a LA front than a New York front. But I could see how for like East Coast that would be more of a thing. But not to say, it's not possible for a West Coast artist to do the same thing. Like even like, Atlanta and things like that. It's just a matter of, getting into those areas.
Where do you like in 5 to 10 years, what's like success for you at that point?
I'm definitely trying to tap into market of different things. Like I said, I like having my hands in everything. So I want to be able to be at a level to where I'm like producing at an efficient rate. I am, currently writing like a treatment screenplay for a short film I plan to do for the album I'm coming out with. So just tap more into the entertainment industry, where it be like with acting, producing and directing.
Dude, you should try stand-up.
I think stand-up would be so fucking hard.
You should come check it out.
Oh, I've definitely been to a lot. several little like local shows, like even at Comedy Underground, which because I feel like, I don't know, to me that like takes so much more effort than rapping on stage.
Really?
Yeah. So like, I mean, yeah, most definitely. Just because you have so much more of a tougher crowd for being a comedian, because it's like you got to make motherfuckers laugh. Like you got to make motherfuckers laugh. And it's like, I just got to, like sometimes like, I mean, people DJ music. It's like you got to make people dance. You got to make people feel a certain type of way. You don't have to make people do one specific thing when it comes to a live performance. But with comedy, it's like you got one goal, and that one goal is to make people laugh.
Yeah.
Like, you can make someone cry and they had a good experience at a concert. You can make someone dance and they had a good experience at a concert. You can make someone, do a number of things at a live music show, whereas you only have one main objective.
Yeah, and it's compounded by the fact that everybody has their own unique sense of humor.
Exactly. Yeah.
And what they find funny is different for everybody.
Like, and that's like when you're established, motherfuckers are coming out to see you because they know you're funny and they know like your range and your sense of humor. But when you're someone who's like just getting started, everyone has the highest expectation. They're like, I'm trying to fucking laugh, like, and you better be fucking funny, because if you're not, but I'm not giving away my laughs for nothing. Like,
that's the fun of it though, because like when you're really earning it.
And I fucking hate and love the feeling of being anxious and nervous, but I love that feeling because it's like,
I miss it so much,
after
man.
you do the shit that you're anxious about, like that fucking endorphin release is just so relieving.
It's
like,
the shit. I sometimes, like, even if I have a bad set, because you get used to where when you're getting up regularly, like you're gonna have good and bad sets. Like there's certain things, like if you're working on new stuff and like trying, as long as you know the reason why it didn't go well, like you don't have to beat yourself up about it. If you went up there and you tried to execute and you just fucked up completely, like that's a different situation. But even when it goes bad, like you get the rush and then you get off and you like,
it's over with. Like, but I did what I needed to do, regardless of if, I did it. I had, the courage and strength to go up here. And I feel like that tells a lot more than anything. And people are you're always gonna have a tough crowd, but there's also gonna be the people who fucking understand and get it. Like, and I feel like with audiences, like they get it. Like it's always portrayed like in media, like, oh boo, like hella like shit like that. But I feel like there's a lot of understanding people who are like, I would assume even on a comedy front, like there's a lot of like you didn't have your best performance, but like regardless of people laughing or not, they're not like shitting on you at the end of the day. Like,
there's usually humanity built into it. Like people get it, and it seems to go more when people go to a venue and they have to pay even like $5. There's something that happens, like a flip of the switch of the brain, where like
I'm looking to have fun because I invested in
the process, and they're giving it an option versus, or giving it a chance versus, like if you're just at like when you were starting, like, is there the equivalent of an open mic or like what?
I feel like I was at a spot where I was pretty filthy before I even started doing open mics though. So
really,
because I wasn't going to put myself in any position to not be filthy and for an open mic. But I have done spoken words and things like that. Like
Travis
poetry.
started with that.
Yeah, and actually, I did a lot of shit. Not a lot of shit, but there is like the same group, Youth Speaks, that I did like open mics for alongside with Travis, and also my homie Nick, who passed away. Henry's homie Nick, also who I met Henry through. So I met Henry through Nick. But But yeah, when we were first out here in Seattle in like 2012, 2013, I think that may have been, I don't think that's how I met Travis, but yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it's been fun as hell talking to you, man. I want to be conscientious of your time, but if people want to find you online or like where on social media can they find you?
Yeah. So I am at Campana Zone on all social media fronts. Campana Zone, Zone. That's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, SoundCloud, YouTube, etc. And yeah, I'm dropping a new single, Things You Do, this coming Thursday, May 28th, I believe. I mean, March 28th. No, definitely May 28th. But, you know, considering when this may come out, it might already be out by this time. So go stream that. And yeah, if you want to say what's up, just reach out to me. Say what's good. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. My worst fear is that you find someone new. Someone to make you happy like I used to do. To freak you right and do the things I used to do. If you were ready, would've gave it all to you. My worst fear is that you find someone new. Someone to make you happy like I used to do. To freak you right and do the things I used to do. If you were ready, would've gave it all to you. Would've gave it all to you. Can you see that? In a function asking where the tree at. But my bros wanna be where you at. True that, but I know it's different and I'm hoping you see through that. Niggas probably ask you on the regular. To me it was all natural, it was regular. Really wanna hit you on your cellular. And honestly it's probably cause I think you out this nebula. And I've been drinking, let's not get ahead of us. Off the Henny, so my text may be illegible. And the times we had together were incredible. I would set my shit aside just to fit you in my schedule. It's immeasurable, all the energy invested. Put it in a track and I hope you get the message. Pray it doesn't give the wrong impression.